Sorry about that. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm Danielle Miles-Wilson, the CAO for the Cowichan Valley Regional District. Thank you for joining us here today for the inaugural meeting of our new board. I'd like to start off by acknowledging that this meeting is being held on the traditional and ancestral territory of the Coast Salish people. We are humbled and honored to live and work on this beautiful territory. We thank you to family and friends for joining us here today, supporting those taking their important oaths of office for this 4-year term. We do have distinguished guests in the room as well. I'd like to welcome Mr. Joe Thorne from Cowichan Tribes, who's going to be doing our welcoming for us, and Mr. Alistair McGregor, our MP for Cowichan, Malhat, Langford. So Joe is going to be doing a welcome for us. Thank you. And then I'll turn it over to Patrick Robbins, our corporate officer, who will take us through the meeting for this afternoon. So thank you very much and welcome.
Aisne sia tala haichapka nemakwa na Cowichan damoch haichapka na seto watu dis na ayas not so mas na squalo nolap. I'd like to welcome you to the Cowichan territory, and I honor you by saying not so much, no squalanola, because you all have to work as one. There are no lines when it comes to the human people that live between you and the next group. Never put yourself above what they want. Make the best judgment calls in all that you do and all that you say. Oh, excuse me, I have to backtrack. Subaxis. I forgot we now have a New Chalmers school in Lake Cowichan, and they've gone back to New Chalmers way, so I just acknowledged you in New Chalmers. Got to remember politics. But please, walk gently, be humble, learn to listen so you can listen to learn. That's why the people took the time to say, I trust you. I trust you to represent us. We've gone through some scary times with COVID. Now the trials begin, and the people are waiting for your tribulation that you're going to offer the communities. That's important. That's coming from your se'la, your heart. Let the people feel your words. Don't read off a script. Speak honestly, because that's what people react to. And there's a little prayer I'd like to leave with all of you. Seeing my sister, my cousin, she's the brat over there, and all of you, with my deepest respect, I give you this prayer. Whoa, oh, yeah, oh, yeah. Whoa, oh, yeah, oh, yeah. Ah, ah, eh, ah, ah, eh, ah, eh, ah, ah, eh, ah, eh. Whoa, oh, yeah, oh, yeah. Whoa, oh, yeah, oh, yeah. Ah, ah, eh. Ooh, oh, eh. Ah, eh. Ooh, oh, eh. Ah, eh. The song comes from my cousins from the Americas. It's asking God as you walk by the water to let me hear, let me feel, let me learn, let me share so that we all may prosper. We do this for the love of why we're sitting here. We do this for the love that you want to give the new leaders who will one day take your place. I'm very proud to stand before you and raise my hand. I can't raise both of them because if I take my hand off this button, it'll quit working. So just pretend there's two hands there. Haitsapka.
Thank you very much for that. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Patrick Robbins. I'm the corporate officer for the regional district. And it's my privilege and honor to preside over the 2022 inaugural meeting of the Cowichan Valley Regional District and the Cowichan Valley Regional Hospital District, and actually call the meeting to order. As your resident parliamentarian, please, during this meeting, be gentle on me. Mind you, you only have a couple of items on your agenda, so hopefully you won't stump me with any particular parliamentary questions. I just wanted to congratulate to those that were elected, claimed, and appointed to the board. And before I get into the meat of your agenda, I just wanted to take a moment to introduce to those that are here and to those that are watching us live our board. And I'm just going in alphabetical order of the areas first, and then I'm going to go into the municipalities. But representing Area A, which is Mill Bay, Malahat, is Kate Segal. Welcome, Kate. From Area B, which is Shawnigan Lake, Sierra Acton. From Area C, Cobble Hill, Mike Wilson. From Area D, Cowichan Bay, Hillary Abbott. From Area E, Cowichan Station, Satlam, Glenora, Allison Nicholson. From Area F, Cowichan Lake, Scotts Falls, Ian Morrison. From Area G, Saltaire, Gulf Islands, Jesse McClinton. From Area H, North Oyster Diamond, Ben Martman. From Area I, Yubo Mead Creek, Karen Deck. And the appointments by municipal councils for their representatives at the CVRD and the CVR-HD board table include from Duncan, Michelle Staples, from Ladysmith, Aaron Stone, for Lake Cowichan, Tim McGonigal, for North Cowichan, Rob Douglas, Christopher Justice, Tech Manhas, and Deborah Toporowski. The newest population figures certified by the Ministry of Municipal Affairs effective November 2022 and pursuant to the Local Government Act, the District of North Cowichan will now have 4 representatives on the board of directors. And so that's why I read out 4 names. For those that were eager and read the procedure bylaw, you'll note that when we get to the election, a majority there says 8, but because we have 1 more member on this board, the majority is 9 for the election. But we'll get into the election in just a moment. So this afternoon's agenda consists of 2 parts: the oath of office for the directors around this table, and for our alternate directors that are sitting with us as well, and of course an election of a chair and vice chair for the first year of this 4-year term. And an election is held every November over the course of this term in these 4 years. So the oath of office will be laid out in 3 parts: one for the electoral area directors, another for municipal directors, and finally one for alternate directors. If you look inside your blue folders, you'll find your oath of office, and the oaths of office are slightly different between the electoral area directors and who are elected, or in the case there was 2 directors that were acclaimed, are slightly different than those that are municipal directors, because municipal directors are appointed by their respective councils. So let's start with the oath of office of the electoral area directors. So I'd ask the electoral area directors to please rise. So I'm going to read this in small parts, and what I'd ask you is just simply repeat what I say. I am qualified to hold the office of Director for the Cowichan Valley Regional District and Cowichan Valley Regional Hospital District to which I have been elected. I have complied with the provisions of the Local Government Act in relation to my election or acclamation to this office. I will abide by all rules related to conflicts of interest under the Community Charter. I will carry out my duties with integrity. I will be accountable for the decisions that I make. And the actions that I take. In the course of my duties. I will respect of others. I will demonstrate leadership and collaboration. I will perform the duties of my office in accordance with the law. Congratulations. I'd ask the municipal directors to please rise. And again, repeat after me. I am qualified to hold the office of Director for the Cowichan Valley Regional District and Cowichan Valley Regional Hospital District to which I've been appointed. I will abide by all rules related to conflicts of interest under the Community Charter. I will carry out my duties with integrity. I will be accountable for the decisions that I make. And the actions that I take. In the course of my duties. I will be respectful of others. I will demonstrate leadership and collaboration. I will perform the duties of my office in accordance with the law. Fabulous. Please be seated. I'd like to introduce you to the new Cowichan Valley Regional District and Cowichan Valley Regional Hospital District Board of Directors for the next 4 years. I'd ask that the alternate directors come on up, and if you wouldn't mind coming up into the area up here and just simply stand in front of the person that you're the alternate director for. We all want you on the we want to see you in the cameras, and those that are live with us would like to see you. I know we're a little crowded in here, and thank you for indulging us. So alternate directors, if you wouldn't mind, please repeat after me. I am qualified to hold the office of alternate director for the Cowichan Valley Regional District and to which I have been appointed. I will abide by all rules related to conflicts of interest under the Community Charter. I will carry out my duties with integrity. I will be accountable for the decisions that I make. And the actions that I take. In the course of my duties. I will be respectful to others. I will demonstrate leadership and collaboration. I will perform the duties of my office in accordance with the law. Thank you all. Please be seated. Just a reminder with all of us here, if you haven't already put your smart devices into the silent mode, that would be great. It's been a while since we've had a big crowd like this in the boardroom. So, we're going to proceed with the election of the board chair and vice chair. So pursuant to the Local Government Act, regional districts are required to elect a chair and vice chair each year at the first meeting held in November. Today, you elect a chair and vice chair for a 12-month term. By previous resolution of the board, the hospital board chair and the board chair hold the same position, and the same applies for the vice chair. The positions are elected by majority vote from among the members of the board, meaning that it takes 9 or more votes to be elected. And again, I had mentioned at the outset that our procedure bylaw refers to 8, but given the new census data, there is one more person around the table. That means a majority is 9 or more votes. If there are more than 2 nominations, multiple rounds of voting may be necessary to determine the election of the chair and the vice chair. The process is a part of the board's procedure bylaw, and I'll provide some further instructions should this be necessary to have more than 1 round of voting. So I'd like to take this time to call for nominations for board chair. Are there nominations for board chair? Director Toporowski. Yes, please.
I nominate Aaron Stone.
Director Stone, do you accept the nomination? Are there other nominations for chair? Director Martin.
I nominate Allison Nicholson.
Director Nicholson, do you accept? Thank you. Any other nominations for chair? Director Acton.
I nominate Deborah Toporowski.
Director Toporowski, do you accept the nomination?
Thank you to my nominator, but I will decline.
Thank you. Any further nominations for chair? I'll just call a last time. Any other nominations for board chair? Hearing no further, I call the nomination period closed, and Director Stone and Director Nicholson will stand for chair. So at this time, and again, pursuant to the procedures bylaw of the Board of Directors, we have an opportunity for the 2 candidates to address the board at this time. As I wrote them down and as they came in, Director Stone, if you wouldn't mind proceeding and address the board, you most certainly can use the podium, please.
Hopefully my technology works. Thank you, Deborah, for the nomination. Director Toporowski, apologies. And congratulations to Director Nicholson for being nominated. Before I begin, I also want to recognize with gratitude that I'm so thankful to be here on traditional territories of the Coast Salish people and the Nuu-chah-nulth people of Lake Cowichan. So I stand before you nominated for chair after having a lot of lengthy discussions with all of you over the past number of weeks. And I just want to say to start with that I'm so encouraged by the camaraderie within this group and with the positive feeling that I get from the group. We've come through a tough time over the last 4 years, and it's undoubtedly due to COVID. And during some of that time, I did, of course, serve for 2 years as chair during the previous term. It was a challenging 2 years. Shortly after I was elected chair, we had our major floods in Cowichan. Shortly after that, we moved into COVID, and through that period, we also had a number of wildfires and other floods in the region. And I will say that the dynamics were very challenging with those situations that were presented to us. But I was so thankful by the collaboration within the group and how we faced the challenges of a very difficult time, in many ways, the most difficult time in a generation. I think looking forward, though, I'm extremely excited about this group. Getting to know you all over the last couple of weeks during our training sessions and engagements, I felt a really positive and constructive vibe among the group, and I'm really excited for that. There are challenges ahead. We're not through the pandemic yet. We're more moving into a recovery and a management phase, and it's going to continue for us to be collaborative and constructive over being combative when it comes to delivering on the priorities for our residents. I have that experience in crisis management, if you will. Thankfully, the locusts never came through the fires and floods. But I am looking forward to a really progressive and positive term for this board. I have a lot of knowledge of the systems within the organization. My experience speaks to that. I've worked through the hospital board through the time that got us to the contract signing for the delivery of our new Cowichan Hospital, and that's going to be an ever-present issue in front of us as we complete that project. I've also gotten a lot of knowledge of this place. I'm a kid of Cowichan. I've grown up in almost every corner of this regional district, and I feel like I live and am deeply rooted in every corner of this region. I also have been very honored to work with Cowichan tribes on the Cowichan Watershed Board and delivered a lot of progress on our work around the new weir and around the recovery and restoration of our heritage river, and also working on the Coxsila issues. Obviously, I'll never equal the investment that Director Nicholson has made, but I'm very proud of the work that I did with working with Chief Seymour at the time with Cowichan tribes as we look to restore the health of our heritage river. I also am an advocate for the organization. I've developed strong relationships between colleagues here at the board, with our excellent staff, and with senior government officials. I've always been collaborative and constructive in those, even though we may disagree at times, advocating for the needs of our region. We definitely have challenges ahead. We're facing rapid inflation, and in local government, we'll all see every day that our capital project and maintenance costs are actually rising much faster than the base rate of inflation. And we also have a recession on the horizon, and it's going to require a level of focus that we have maybe not had to have before to deliver on the priorities for our residents and our responsibilities in the face of increasing financial pressures, not only to the organization, but maybe more importantly, and in fact more importantly, to the residents we all serve. Another priority for me is reconciliation. Through the last term, due to COVID, we really didn't have the opportunity to continue to engage and build relationships with the First Nations throughout our region. And through the respect that we have moving forward, we need to continue to invest in those relationships and continue to move forward on actions that show that we're serious about reconciliation. And I've spoken about focus. This is challenging times. It's going to require a degree of focus that we've maybe not had before. Through the first year of this term, we're going to have to find sharp pencils for our budget, and maybe more importantly, a strong strategic plan that represents the group of us and our residents as we move forward to a better future. I'm excited to work through these challenges. Within every challenge, I truly believe that there are opportunities. Nothing good ever comes without struggle, and I think that this term will show that. I'm really excited about the representatives we have here being able to rise to the challenges in front of us and really mine the opportunities to find greater success for all the people that we serve. Sustainable change takes steps. It's not dramatic swings of a pendulum. As you see in other levels of government, when you have those dramatic swings, they're often undone by the next set of leaders that takes the helm. I've truly, over the last 8 years of experience, learned that pragmatic, progressive steps toward an ideal that we share is more successful, lasting, and sustainable change than dramatic lurches in one direction or another. I truly believe that around this table that we have a common vision of the ideal that we see for our communities in the future. But I also truly believe that taking steps that bring our communities with us, not building resistance, but building support, will be the way that we move forward successfully. I've heard a lot from each of you over the last few weeks, and I'm really looking forward to moving our communities forward together. thank you for your support, and after the speeches, I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Stone. I call upon Director Nicholson to come up to the podium.
Thank you, Ben, for the nomination. And thank you, Aaron, for the chance to stand up here as well. I think you'll hear a lot of the similar thoughts, I think. But I want to start by telling you a little bit about myself, because some of you know me better than others. And then I'd like to tell you about the 4 things I think the chair needs to focus on this term. And I'll start with myself. I live with my husband in the Coxsilo watershed on a small farm. We are incredibly grateful and with great respect and acknowledgement that it's on the traditional territory and unceded territory of the Quw'utsun and Malahat people. The Coxsilo watershed has a community gathering place called the Hub at Cowichan Station. And my CVRD journey began there. It's a community gathering place that was created by the community for the community. And it's a testament to one of my core beliefs, which is that by working together with others, you can achieve amazing things. And that's what we did in Cowichan Station. And we're still doing that in Cowichan Station today. So I am inspired to take a working together approach to our role here at the CVRD. And I enjoy working with people, and I believe we are stronger when we work collaboratively with one another, but it isn't easy to actually achieve that kind of collaboration. But right now, it is the time for the board to come together, to look forward, to reset our relationships and build new ones. And that way we can together create a pretty strong team that can respond to the big challenges this region faces, as well as the great opportunities, so that we can keep it a great place to be. And for my part at the board table, I think it's fair to say that I have earned people's, I think I've shown, maybe I'll put it that way, I've shown that I am willing to work with colleagues, and I am a pretty conscientious and solid board member. I do my homework and come prepared. I do listen deeply. I focus on the issues. I'm respectful and, importantly, patient. And I speak my mind and from the heart when I feel I need to. So being an electoral area director has also given me specific opportunities to interact with and experience the CVRD. And no, I haven't been the chair before, so I don't have all that experience, but I have spent quite a bit of time observing the board, 4 board chairs over 8 years, and the staff. And it's led me to conclude that the chair this term needs to focus on building 4 things. The first thing is building a collaborative board. So I've already told you teamwork is where I'm at, but how do you make that happen? And so, qualities of a good team, I think you'll find that sharing information and keeping members in the loop is really important. Sharing opportunities to learn and develop and contribute to the effort. Regularly checking in to share feedback. I don't think we've done enough of that in the past, and we need to do that. Reaching agreement on what the most important things to achieve together are, and then purposefully pursuing them. So I commit to building those principles into our work together. I need you to commit the time it's going to need to hash out those team priorities together early in the term. It's really important to understand one another and to find the common ground at the beginning. The second area is building a culture of service. So we are in the service business, and I'm sure you've all experienced and appreciated really good service when someone goes above and beyond to be welcoming, helpful, solve a problem, proactive, out searching for solutions for. If you want to expect a client-centered, service-oriented culture, it starts with the chair and it starts with the board. We're the face of the organization, and we need to set a gold standard for service. Service to each other, service to the staff, and service to our residents, of course. The third area is building First Nations relationships. And 2 terms ago, under John Lefebure's leadership, I think we made some important first steps towards connecting with the First Nations in the region. And COVID has certainly slowed us down. It's slowed everyone down. This past term, we did have a lovely meeting with the Malahat recently, but in any case, First Nations are stepping into their power, and we are stronger together. And I can't think of anything that exemplifies that more than the Cowichan Watershed Board. And finally, the fourth thing that I think the chair needs to focus on is building a stronger advocacy presence. Many of the region's issues that we deal with are the responsibility of the province or the federal government. And yet, too often, they're absentee landlords, leaving us to cope without the right tools and enough resources to actually make a difference. So I think a much more systematic and coordinated effort across the region and with other jurisdictions beyond our region to advocate on key issues is an important focus of the board and chair. So, thank you. Again, I really appreciate the opportunity to stand for election. I've never done anything like that, remotely like this, putting myself out there against such an esteemed colleague. But no matter the outcome, I really firmly believe that our task is to reflect on and reset how we as a board will inspire one another. I mean, that we need to inspire one another and work productively together for the organization, for all of our communities, and indeed for the whole region. And I'm here committed to help make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Nicholson. So this is a time where you have 30 minutes with which you can pose questions to the 2 candidates before you. Because there's a large group, I'd ask that you keep your question concise, and to the extent that the candidates answer, if you could keep your answers concise, because we are working on a procedure that gives you 30 minutes to do so. And I'm just going to do a round table, and I'm going to start on my left, and I'm going to work around the table. If after 30 minutes, or if there's more than, let me put it this way, if you don't use the 30 minutes after one round, we'll continue to go around again until your 30 minutes of questioning of the 2 candidates is completed. There was a question.
Just in the Quatson tradition, you always go to the right.
My apologies. I thank you for correcting me. Then we'll start on my right. That was appreciate that. If you have any questions for the candidates?
Yeah, thank you. So I think we'll acknowledge that there are many things that are better planned regionally, growth management, biodiversity, conservation, reconciliation, to name just a few. So what I'd like to know is what you see as the significant gaps in regional planning at the CVRD, and how you would provide leadership in moving the CVRD to more significant regional planning. Oh, this is for both candidates.
I invite either of you to start.
Thanks for the question. There are lots of gaps, regional gaps, and my background is in very much focused on the environment and biodiversity, all sorts of things. But I think our basic planning tool is the official community plan. And last Friday night, I was at a modernized official community plan presentation about the ideas that we've heard so far from the community as far as the electoral area official community planning process that's underway. And it became really clear in the conversation afterwards that it is absolutely challenging to do a good official community plan and good local area plans without a solid regional context on how you're going to manage growth. And we all know we're facing incredible development pressures. We are running out of water in places. So I think probably moving towards a regional growth strategy would be a more important thing to do. There is lots of work that you could do without a regional growth strategy, which of course becomes a legally enforceable plan, which is why it is a strong tool. But it is complicated and sometimes challenging to get there. I know it's been discussed around the CVRD for over 20 years, but I think that should be our goal, because we really are finding it hard pressed to plan well without it.
Thank you, Director Justice. So Ladysmith and North Cowichan, Ladysmith's close to completion of our new official community plan process, and North Cowichan finished theirs recently. And reviewing both documents, I think, show that our municipalities, I think, are ready to have that broader conversation. The artificial boundaries that are built between us don't exist as far as our sustainability goes, whether it's economic, environmental, or cultural. And all of these issues need a holistic approach. I think our work in Ladysmith speaks to our commitment to both the environment, to reconciliation, and to a vibrant economy within a new, greener, more sustainable future for the entire region. And I think that having had discussions with the colleagues around this table, as well as our community members, that we could see that things like a regional growth strategy typically have been resisted by municipalities. We've heard during our training that they often get watered down. And I think if you look at our Cowichan 2050 framework, that gives us a good starting point to move towards a more cohesive and well-planned region when it comes to protecting biodiversity, preparing for climate change, both in terms of adaptation and mitigation, and building a resilient 21st century economy that is served by those land use decisions and those decisions that we make. I also have learned in my time, I tell the story often that I was asked 6 months after I was elected mayor how I liked it, and I said it may be the worst thing I've ever done. And that's because I brought so much of my ideology to the table in a no-compromise way. And I was learning that that's not the path forward to sustainable success. I built on that in my words today, but I truly believe that sustainable, long-term success, both environmentally and ecologically, comes from pragmatic steps toward the ideal that bring our communities along with us, building support, not resistance. And I think that if we look at what our municipalities are doing right now and what's happening with the modernization of the OCP within the regional district, that it might not be one of those watered down exercises towards a regional growth plan, but it might actually be something that's really truly fantastic and sustainable both environmentally and economically for our entire region, and really lead the way not only in British Columbia, which is a fairly progressive province, but lead the way across our country. Thank you.
This one is for Allison, and then sort of a form of that question for you, Aaron. Allison, what issues in particular would you hope to advocate for at the provincial and federal level? What are those issues that are so important?
Thank you. So electoral areas don't have many tools, and one of the areas that I think's a real problem for us is stormwater management. And I think with the climate change and the increasing intensity of winter storms, we're going to be facing quite a lot of challenges, and we haven't necessarily developed in ways that allow stormwater to be managed well on site. And so there's sort of like, we have to do some retrofitting in a number of areas where there's serious issues. So that for electoral areas, I think that is one thing that we can't ignore, and that to date has been we don't have stormwater infrastructure, and that's a Ministry of Transportation, except for their ditches, so that's a bit of an issue. The other thing that I find keeps coming back all the time, from my perspective, I'm very focused on water and watersheds, and we are not allowed to, regional districts, electoral areas are not allowed to regulate tree cutting. And I find land clearing is a super problem for impacting hydrology and watersheds, so I think that needs to change. I understand that we don't have private managed forest land, and, well, I'm going to stop there because I've made my point.
Thank
In
you.
the
Thank you.
time.
Oh, and Aaron, do you agree with the importance of advocacy to the provincial and federal governments?
I would agree with everything that Director Nicholson said, and absolutely, I think I've established a reputation both at the provincial and federal level for being collaborative advocate, recognizing the realities that are in front of us, but also pushing hard to deliver on the priorities for our region.
Yeah, I have a question for both Director Nicholson and Director Stone. What values do you think are important for a chair to hold in order to be successful?
Calm, collaborative, constructive, lots of C words. I think the reality is it's getting the most out of everyone at our table, recognizing the unique talents and strengths and magnifying those. Well, you know, we all admittedly have our own weaknesses and triggers, if you will, and trying to minimize those. Like I said before, in getting to know each of you, I've known some of you for the better part of a decade or more, but even the new directors that have been elected to this table, I'm really excited about that collaborative atmosphere. But it's also being strategic and knowing what battles to face and to what hills to die on, if you will, and where to make compromise to deliver on those pragmatic steps forward toward the ideal, and finding a common vision that we can all agree on that delivers on both the economic and environmental priorities for our region.
I agree with everything Director Stone said, but I would add some F words: fair, firm, and flexible.
Director Toporowski, do you have anything?
So as chair, what would be your first order of business?
I think appointments. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump in there, Director Nicholson. But beyond that, I think, is to find that common strategic vision. We're going to need a really acute sense of focus this term. We can't be chasing squirrels. We have to find a common vision and pursue it with a sense of vigor and dedication. So I think the strategic visioning and development process to get to know each other, understand our priorities, and to put those in writing, and to adhere to them quite, fervently, and to pursue them aggressively is the way that we'll find success in a really challenging time. I think to ignore the realities, the financial realities that I know we're all living through every day, but our residents are, and in the face of things like climate change, our priorities around reconciliation, we do have a lot to do, but we need to pick and focus on the items that I think will deliver, and I think that we've got a good group here to deliver on those priorities.
Yeah, I agree completely with what Director Stone said, but I hearken back to what I said in my little speech, which is, success is only going to be if the whole board really takes that to heart and is willing to put in the time and effort it takes to really find that common ground that we can all live with.
Director Morrison.
I'm going to yield so that we can get some of our newly elected into the question queue.
Thank you. Director McGonigal.
I will not yield, but respect Director Morrison's allowing me his time. This is for both candidates. First of all, thank you very much for putting your names forward. It can be a very humbling and thankful job, but it can also be like herding cats. as we move into reconciliation, as you spoke of, what would be your focus on the first year within that reconciliation action plan?
I think that's for the board to determine. I think that it would be probably wise to have a committee or a standing committee or some discussion. I know that Director Staples has had lots of experience, and Director Toporowski, of course, is highly connected. And I think the Cowichan Watershed Board is also a very good vehicle to keep in mind and to work with the chief in that capacity to reach out a little bit more and let them know that we're there, but they need to take the lead. And there are 9 First Nations in the region, so it's a bit of a challenge to reach out to all of them, but you have to look around and see where you can find the opportunities, and don't miss an opportunity to be there, because it's all about being there and building that relation.
There's going to be a lot of, I agree with everything that Director Nicholson just said. In addition to that, I think that we were blessed in the first term that I was on this board to have a lot of really powerful engagements with a number of nations within the region. And we need to get back to that format. With a number of new directors here and with some of the delays that we had due to COVID, I think we do need to take a small step back before we start moving forward again. And that starts with some training and understanding. And also recognizing the leadership of the nations within our region. When we start in Ladysmith with a new council, we start with a meal with no agenda other than getting to know each other, understand each other, learn about each other's families, and really connect as human beings, and really start to learn and understand the commonalities, but also the differences in the various cultures that are represented within the region. So I know that for me, it's a very powerful and humbling and life-changing experience that really changes your worldview. And I think it would serve us all very well to start at that base level to get a good sense of understanding and appreciation for the place that we're all grounded in together. And that'll help us move both forward on the items of reconciliation, but also our own work around strategic visioning for a better future for the region.
I wish Director McGonigal had yielded, because that was the exact question I was going to ask.
Well, you looked at my writing.
But I love the new phraseology, and I hope Deborah, our Director Toporowski, would agree that it's all about reconciliation. Too much has been written of late that we've got loads of paper, loads of ink on reconciliation. Now it's time to act. So thank you for coining the phrase, and thank you both directors for your thoughtful responses. My other interest, you both talked about collaboration and working constructively. I'd love to hear how do we break down the silo mentality and work together as a region, as the wise, welcoming words from Joe Thorne said, that we are one region, we are one people. We need to work together. I'd love to hear just some pragmatic, some practical ideas, what we're going to do on working as a region. Please and thank you.
I think some pragmatic things we can do is to follow the model that there's a leadership group, I think it's called, of Cowichan tribes and the Alice MP and MLA and mayors and the chair, I think, that have been meeting relatively regularly, particularly when they have issues, to try and figure out how they can help one another and manage through. I think we need to do a lot more of that, and I think in particular we should have mayor chair meetings regularly. I think there should be more interchange with councils, because there's a lot going on in this region, and I know that you can get kind of stuck in your silo and not look out. So you have to make a conscious effort and find ways and set up structures often to make it happen.
Can we just be co-chairs and be done with it? Well, we have the 4 mayors at this table. And I think I've seen a shift in our municipalities over the last term that are more open, collaborative, and looking outward. Sometimes we can get into our tunnel visions, but the leadership group was a great example of pulling us out of our silos, if you will, or our narrow focuses on our responsibilities as mayors and start looking more holistically at the whole region. And it's actually a comfort as well. This jobs can be really challenging. I think we all know that. Sorry for the new folks that don't know that yet. But having those opportunities to sort of cut across the imaginary boundaries between us can truly build a more resilient group, a more collaborative group, and really reduce the temperature and the pressure that you feel when you feel isolated as a director. I have a lot of respect for the electoral area directors, and sometimes my comments around 9 directors with the per capita representation that you have in the electoral areas may come off as seeming like a dividing statement, but actually it's meant to say that there is a lot of support here. You have an excellent organization within the CVRD. We all have excellent supports within our municipal governments and our staff. And the more we can actually cross those imaginary boundaries that have been placed between us and work in the best interests of the entire region, we'll find that more sustainable success. So I really get the feeling from this group that this is possible, and I would be honored to have the opportunity to facilitate that work.
Just a reminder, everybody, to keep your questions and your answers concise as we make our way around the table. Director Wilson.
Yes, thank you, Patrick. As far as the First Nation relationships are concerned, it's absolutely critical, and I'm really pleased that Elder Joe Thorne was here today, and I thank him for his presence and the words that he said there. One of the things that has been brought up is the advocacy presence with the province and the federal bodies, and I'm really happy to see that there are representatives of both the province and the federal bodies are here today, because this is one of the biggest problems that we here, and me certainly, have faced when dealing with multi-jurisdictional bodies. How do you propose to, for want of a better phrase, advocate for greater advocacy and the authority to assist us in the problems we're chasing? Thank you.
That's one of my big regrets, actually, from the 2 years I served as chair. I wasn't able to engage directly with the senior government officials through UBCM, AVICC, and those other opportunities, and even more so, really at all, with the restrictions around COVID. That's been a strength, I believe, that I've proven over the last 8 years. I've developed deep, trusting relationships with senior government officials. That doesn't mean that we always agree, and I recognize, though, and respect the boundaries and limits of the ability to sometimes deliver on some of the more complex and challenging issues. But that's one of the things I'm most excited about, is being able to lead at an advocacy level with the region. I've set myself up to be able to dedicate full time to this role of local government over the next 4 years. And I think it's primarily important in this year, as we develop our priorities, that we set up an advocacy plan that the chair and a supporting group of directors can lead with the province and the federal government around the issues critical, whether it's the river, the ocean with the mortgages, MP McGregor's here, and all of those other challenges that we have, particularly in the electoral directors. Remember, I also live in Director Martman's area, so I'm well aware of those issues. I don't want my roads fixed, though. It keeps things slow. Yeah, we need to work together on those things, and I'd be excited to get the opportunity to do that for the region.
I'm just trying to think what I can add. You know, one of the things that we are really fortunate, we live close to Victoria. And so we should be taking more advantage of opportunities to go and lobby or advocate more regularly, because certainly if you lived up north, that's not available to you, so you rely much more heavily on UBCM and your local area. So I think that we could do that. I also think that our issues aren't unique to the Cowichan Valley Regional District. You know, I've talked to lots of electoral area directors, particularly on the Vancouver Island and the Sunshine Coast, similar issues. We need to work with them to carry a larger and stronger message. And you can't just wait for once a year. You have to be continually promoting your message and planning and doing it in a very much more systematic and coordinated way is really key to it, I think.
Okay, so I'm brand new, but in our training, we're learning that it's so important for the chair to maintain a cohesive board, and we're a variety of personalities, a variety of voices. Some of us may be more quiet and contemplative. Some of us might be more loud and dominating. I'm wondering what you both would do as chair to make sure that the quiet voices are heard and the loud voices are moderated so that everyone's message can come through.
I think that you have to make sure that people feel like it's a safe place to be. And so I think people's behavior at the table is really critical. So one of the roles of the chair is, and actually it's responsibility of every single board member, is to stay on top of inappropriate behavior so that people feel that they can speak. And then you need to be patient and you need to listen to people and you need to give people opportunities. And there are lots of facilitation techniques you could use as the chair. Currently, we just seem to wait until people ask people if they'd like to speak, but you can also go, we're going to do a quick round table because we need to understand what everyone thinks, or, there's lots of things that you can do along that way. And it is really important for everyone to feel heard.
Ditto. But you need to draw out those conversations. I've had the privilege of working on a lot of boards and councils, and it's often the quiet ones that bring the wisdom to the discussion. A board member that I worked with in the credit union in the past was the quietest board member, but I always said that he brought the hammer. Because he would listen to the group. Actually, in my first board here, when Phil Kent, the previous mayor of Duncan, was here, did that a lot as well. He wasn't necessarily a quiet guy, but he didn't speak a lot. But listening to the conversation around the table and drawing out the sort of pearls of wisdom and the commonalities in the discussion often led to a resolution that was acceptable to all parties. And I think that we need to really work hard to do that. So it's basically making sure that those who aren't speaking are talked to and trying to make them have, as Director Nicholson said, a safe place to speak. And then, sort of trying to find that summary, that soft middle where we find the agreement to be able to make that decision that takes us a step forward toward the ideal.
Yeah, question to Director Stone on Director Nicholson. In recent years, there has been discussion in the community at the board level about the private managed forest lands in the Cowichan Valley Regional District, which make up well over 80% of our land base. And as you both are aware, some of this discussion relates to creating more opportunities for recreation or processing more raw logs in our local mills. Hey, what are you laughing at? Sorry. And I know both of you have shown interest in this topic in recent years, especially with regards to the work done in the Coke Silo watershed. And just wondering if you could speak to whether you see this potentially as a priority for the board going forward, us as a regional district, potentially developing a strategy with regards to the private managed forest lands, or at least advocating at the provincial level.
Nice, concise, short answers.
Thank you. I'll go first because if Director Nicholson goes first, I might not have anything left to say. We've had these conversations, and the challenges of private managed forest lands are very present. 80% of our land base, perhaps a higher percentage of the challenges we have around biodiversity, ecosystem stability, and sustainability, and particularly around water. We've all experienced tremendous challenges with our drinking water supplies and other water supplies in the region due to the private managed forest land actions. I think some of these conversations need to happen face to face and in private. So when I chuckled, I was biting my tongue. because I think some of the challenges are very real and have become more real in the last several years. During my time on here, we've run into more challenges with the management of private forest lands and the impacts on our ecosystems and on our communities, to the tens of millions of dollars in infrastructure investments required just to keep our water clean.
So I think the answer to that is it's only something that we would pursue if the board is, everyone agreed that that was a priority to pursue it. And you know that I am very interested and care deeply about what's happening in our watersheds, and a lot of the land use is industrial forestry, and it isn't doing our water and watersheds any favors at this point. It strikes me that this could be possibly one of the areas for advocating some sort of buyback program with the province on the key, the really critical areas that will help restore the functioning of our watersheds. So, but again, it's what the board thinks is a priority.
Thank you. So I would love to explore the idea of having co-chairs for this board. I think that that would be something moving forward. I just want to put that out there because those tend to be a lot better situations, particularly with groups the size of ours. My question is not an easy one to answer, and I recognize that. So instead of asking it in a broad way, I'm going to try to narrow it down as much as I can. But we have, and we know, and we are all part of this region that has issues around affordable housing and homelessness. And oftentimes, those are issues that we do not discuss at this board table. And we don't, I guess, so my question is, how can this board be better advocates, supporters, solution creators for a problem that is actually owned by the region, not just by Mayor Douglas and I?
That's a tough one. I'll just say this, we've had broad support from our communities, not this last election, but the previous election, investing in the affordable housing service. And we've had some successes there that we can point to as good examples. The homelessness challenge is definitely much more present and notable in the larger core of Duncan and North Cowichan, but none of our communities, whether municipal or electoral areas, are immune to it, whether it's campments in the bush or the issues that we find in our more urban centers. I think it's proportional to population. We have similar issues in Ladysmith, but much more manageable because the population size is that much smaller. But I think there's a serious advocacy component to that, but there's also an action component. And I think that, again, everything at this table is decided by the will of the board, but I would want to hopefully bring our electoral area directors into the conversation and understand that as the municipalities take on the bulk of that support metric or that support action around combating the issues, dealing with the, social disorder, but also the wellness of the folks that are on the streets here, that's providing service to all of the areas within the region, because folks migrate when they're in need to where supports are located, and that's typically within the municipalities. So I would want to work with the electoral area directors to find a vision that would be more supportive for action on those items.
Yeah, this is a really challenging issue, but it's one that I think I'm hoping the board thinks is important enough to make it a priority, because it is, as Director Stone said, it is not just in homeless. It's the whole region is affected by this, and we don't. I mean, I know personally, I don't know enough about it, but I think that there's a lot of sort of learning and work we need to do to understand whether what we've done so far with the Cowichan Housing Association is enough to start to move this forward in a serious way. And I think we need to start thinking about how, at least in electoral areas, how we can be much more flexible to respond to short-term needs without giving up our rural character. And I think that's really important. We exist mainly we're rural areas, providing the ecosystem services that support the rest of the developed area. So we don't want to make rash, quick decisions to try and solve a problem if it's the wrong solution in the long term. So we really need to spend some time really understanding it and thinking through and looking at it from a longer term perspective, I guess would be my answer.
Thank you so much. There's been a lot of great questions. I think I will pass. I just thank both of you for putting your name forward. And I look forward to some informal discussions so that we can really hash out some of these topics and start working on our strategic plan. So thank you.
Thank you. I have two quick questions. We've heard a lot about reconciliation, and the environment, but haven't heard much about the economy from either two candidates for chair. What would be your economic priorities for the regional district? And my second question is around the senior leadership table. Senior leadership table has been around, I guess, for the last 4 years or so, but nobody reports back to the respective the boards or the municipalities as to what actually discussions happened and what actions they took. I was talking to some of the people from North Couch, and some of the residents asked me about that. Well, what do these guys talk about? I said, well, I really have no clue because they don't report back to us. And also, I talked to a counselor from Couch and Tribes last week, and she said the same thing to me. She goes, nobody reports back to their table either. So would both of you, if either of you become chair, will you make a commitment to report back to this table as to what discussions, any actions you have taken as a group?
Okay, I'll answer the first question first, if that's okay, about the economy. Well, to be fair, I think that my core competency when I first got elected was business and economic development. I participated in most of the economic development activities in the region over the last 8 years. Within the town of Ladysmith, I think we've shown that the regional economic development service is immense value. The Partnership for a Vibrant Local Economy that was developed for our communities and our region, working with Stoney's First Nation, has been a very successful program and plan. Also participating in the tech strategy, the industrial land use strategy. We're looking at things around agri-tech in the region, agriculture. The opportunity within the region for economic development, that it's aligned with our other goals around climate and biodiversity as well as reconciliation, are really too numerous to answer at this time, but I'm very confident in my ability to represent the region and the communities as we move forward down that path and really have that economic development that aligns with our overall community goals. On the second part, absolutely, I think it's a discussion with the group. The group has always been considered sort of informal collaboration between the different leadership groups in the region, but I also would like to stress that we need inclusion of Ladysmith and our representatives at the provincial and federal level in that group if we're truly going to have a cohesive couch and leadership group that can report back to the region holistically.
Yeah, I think the job of the chair is to report back on things that they do and involve the board as much as possible. And on the economic development front, philosophically, I believe that if you have a great place to live, and then you will be attracting people to bring their businesses here. And that's the thing that worries me the most about the Cowichan Valley. We're developing so fast, I think we're losing some of the things that we risk losing some of the things that people want to have when they move here. And so things that you need to make sure you've got a great community so that you have enough doctors for everyone. And you need to make sure you've got housing and affordability. And so all of those things to me are sort of the foundation for then economic development, like more economic development. And of course, from my perspective as an electoral area director, that is very much ALR in my area. It's all about agriculture and it's all about outdoor recreation and agritourism and that kind of thing. But generally, I think you just have to have a wonderful place to live to attract the economic development as a starting place. And I also would say, we started up we did an economic developments, we kind of rethought the economic development piece in the first term. It was sort of put on hold, and then we rejuvenated it and did a strategy. And I think that they've made some progress, and I'm feeling fairly comfortable, and it'll be really great to hear them report back on where they're at this point, because the COVID kind of thing slowed stuff down. But yeah, that affordability issue the housing is a huge piece of the economic development puzzle, I think.
Thank you all. Darn, my battery died. That was 30 minutes, wasn't it? Yes, I think that was 30 minutes. I'm going to ask now that the directors make their choice for chair. Staff are going to distribute a ballot for you. You may wish to put the ballot in your folder and use your folder, if you will, for a little bit of a privacy screen. Then we'll come back around with a box and collect your ballot. If you could fold your ballot in half, and then when they come around with the box, we'll place it into the box, and then we'll do the count and report out the selection. What we're going to do is, while we are gathering your ballots, once we collect all the ballots, we're going to take a 5-minute recess as we count the ballots. So we'll take a 5-minute recess after we have got all the ballots in the ballot box. We'll be back at 10 to 3. If I can, bring everybody back together, please. Welcome back. The meeting is live. We did pause it, but I wish that we had recorded. Probably the only time I'll ever be able to bang a gavel was just now. I can do that right. Thank you.
Well, that was pretty tepid.
So by majority, I declare Director Stone as chair of the CVRD board and hospital board for the next 12 months. Congratulations. And now we will call for nominations. Sorry?
Can I just say anything really briefly?
by all means.
I just want to very much thank Director Nicholson, and I'll be relying on you and all of the board a lot for advice, and as we move forward, I really look forward to working with this group. So thank you, Allison, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to call for nominations for vice chair. Any nominations for vice chair? Director Wilson?
Yeah, I nominate Director Nicholson.
Director Nicholson, do you accept? Director Stone?
I'd nominate Director Martman.
Director Martman, do you accept? Any other nominations from the table? Director Morrison?
I'd like to nominate Director Acton.
Director Acton?
Thank you for the nomination, but I decline.
Director McGonigal?
Director Morrison, I'd like to nominate, please.
Director Morrison?
Thank you for the nomination. I respectfully decline.
Any further nominations from the table? I'll do it one last time. Any other nominations for vice chair? Seeing and hearing no other nominations, I'll call the nominations closed. I'd like the two nominees the opportunity, if they wish to speak before the board and take the podium. Director Martman to my right, and then Director Nicholson.
First time at this podium, so bear with me as I learn technology. I think I'd like to start with an acknowledgement and thank you to my nominator. But I'd also like to thank my wife, my family for supporting me in this role and coming forward and saying, yes, I can put my name up. Because without their support, I wouldn't be here. And I'd like to support my alternate because, again, without his support, I wouldn't be here. And I think it's also acknowledging that without me thinking this is a great organization, so to staff, thank you. And to my fellow board members, that I think this is worth putting my name forward and my energy. But also maybe it's because I didn't have an election. I just wanted to have one, so. So to start off that, how do you follow on speeches like Director Stone and Director Nicholson? And I think if I go back to, and I hope I have his name right, Joe Thornton, that started today. And I think it's in our stories. And so I'm going to tell you a story about farming and about a farmer, but it's not me. And it's going to be a bit corny because it's actually about corn. So, so the story goes as there's a farmer every year that has the award-winning corn. And no one really has figured this out about why this happens year after year. So a reporter thought that this would be worth investigating. And so she drove up to his farm. And in driving up to the farm, she went through miles and miles and miles of cornfields until she finally arrived at his farm. And she sat down with him on the porch and said, I'm here to understand why you win every year. And he said, well, did you drive through miles and miles and miles of cornfields? And she said, yes, I did do that. She says, well, that's the answer. Those aren't my cornfields. And she goes, well, then how do you win? He says, because corn, in growing it, you need to have pollination. And the best corn that you can grow are the ones that are cross-pollinated. And so the more cross-pollination you have, you win. You have the best corn. And he said, that's been my strategy my whole life. And she says, well, how do you achieve that? And he says, because I have good neighbors. It's all about my farmer's fields corn. And that the better I can be with them is the better that I can be myself. And so she walked away, and he walked away with her, with the idea in that we're all in this together. If you want to be the best, you be best for others. And so that's why I want to run as vice chair, because I see my role as trying to be best by making each of you best. And so I would look for your support in this. And I guess I would like to close in just saying that, to me, the idea of the Cowichan Valley Regional District is not just the Cowichan Regional District. It's also because we have other neighbors. We have the Regional District of Nanaimo. We have the Cowichan Valley, our Capital Regional District. And so those areas too are all part of us. And so we can't just stay within our silo of the CVRD. We need to be broader. And I think as a CVRD member and a board member, I would look that we can collaborate within, and we also learn to collaborate without side ourselves to the province and also to the federal government, because it's all together that we make ourselves best. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Ben. Good speech. I love that everyone's talking about collaborating, so boy, if we aren't going to collaborate, there's going to be trouble. And I would like to be vice chair so I can raise that point with you really clearly. But I'm sure there will be, and I'm really looking forward to this term. It's just amazing. So I have nothing much more to add to what I said earlier. I think what I said I thought was really important, and I am going to spend a lot more time paying attention to process this time, because there's so many issues that we need to pursue, and those are super important, but you never make any progress unless the process works well for you as a board. So that's where I'm at. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just to remind you of the question period, I did put a new battery in my watch. So you do have 30 minutes, so please be precise and concise with your question and your answers. And so again, we'll do a round table. You have 30 minutes with which to ask questions of the two candidates. And I'll start on my right again, please.
I'm trying to figure out how to, so a really important role of the vice chair and the chair is working together. And I do see, and I heard earlier about an idea of a future that looks more like co-chairs rather than a chair and vice chair. I think there's been a discussion around sort of a division between municipalities and electoral areas. And having worked at boards where the vice chair and the chair act as co-chairs, I've seen that model be really successful. Cowichan Watershed Board's an example. The Island Corridor Foundation, where I serve as co-chair with Charlene Everson from Comox First Nation, and before her, Judith Sayers from New Channel Tribal Council, have both been really successful models. And so I wonder from the candidates what your interest in pursuing a more co-chair based model that would eliminate that barrier between municipal and electoral area directors. If you would see an interest in that and be willing to work on that through the first year of this term.
Director Nicholson?
Yes. I think there's lots of benefits to co-chairing because no one person has the complete package. And it's really, I always think it's really good to work together with people so that you can bounce ideas and, yeah. I'm not sure how it actually would work formally, and so I think it would be important to look into it and see if we could make it work, yeah.
How much time do I have? I do see advantages and disadvantages to having co-chairs. I've been a co-chair in the past. When you work well together, it's brilliant. When you don't, it can lead to, well, just not very as functional as it could be as a single chair. So I do think that when you, as a board, I would want to see this something that you know what you're electing people into. So I don't see having a vice chair move into a co-chair position without having the board go through the position of electing a co-chair, because I think that's important, because the board needs to look at the dynamics. So from that perspective, the other thing is that it doesn't come free. Right now, you get a vice chair for, I think, little cost or nothing. And so I do worry about that piece of it and about what the added cost, are you getting something for the dollars that you're willing to spend from taxpayers' money? So I'd wanted that to be balanced out. Thank you.
A question for both of you. I'm fresh off the campaign trail, talking to lots of regular folks that maybe don't always know who's responsible for what service, and lots of people going to work, busy with their lives. What do you think, as a board, we should be focusing on to support families within our community? Thank you.
Thanks for the question, and just want to make sure, so you're looking for what the board would do to support families. I can speak for my electoral area best in that I think I know the community better than I do across the CVRD, but I'm not sure that they're significantly different. The first concern is about putting food on the table, paying the rent, being able to pay hydro. And I think, what can we do to support people is by not adding to that burden. And if we can advocate for ways to ensure that they have a vision forward so that they can see that they can pay the next rent, and if we can help with ways with whether it's grants for improvements of things, that we can advocate for that as well. I did advocate at the UBCM for energy poverty initiative from one of our local area members because there are grants available, but they just don't know how to get to them. And so when you think about a person in poverty or a person needing support, they might not have Wi-Fi, they may not have a computer, they may not have the ability to access those grants, even though they're there. And so can the CVRD play a role in supporting people that are having economic problems? And I think through that type of thing, if we can be a conduit to have people be able to get access to funding for around energy poverty, for example, then I think it would be something that we could consider. Thank you.
I don't know how to answer this question because I think it's a question for all of us, not just the vice chair. And so we need to have some conversations about our strategic priorities along those lines. We've learned in our training that we are here to deliver specific services that the community has agreed on. And we don't, as a regional district, we don't have a lot of latitude. Each service has its own budget and we can't move money around and so forth. So I think one of the ways that we could be, and I think we backed off it a little in the last term, one of the ways we could be doing it and should maybe think about it again is how we can support the other organizations in the community who do provide services that we don't in terms of communities, in terms of families that need extra support. And other than that, I think, our job is really to try and build a community that people can be proud of, that they enjoy living in. Everyone has an opportunity to access the service. So, yeah, tough one.
Doesn't move. Thank you. As the vice chair, how would you see yourself supporting the chair in difficult situations, like when I become unruly and make faces, and how would you step in to create that balance?
I'm going to answer that. I will, if I was the vice chair, I would try and make a specific time that I connected with the chair, regular opportunities to communicate, because you can't support people unless you're part of the conversation and you're in the know. And I know we all live extremely busy lives, and that's always the challenge, is finding the time to have the conversation. And I think the chief was really smart when he used to say, when I do this, you need to stop talking, so you have to have techniques to deal with this one. But yeah, I think that you just have to have the conversation about how you can be helpful, because it's hard to help people who don't want to be helped. So, but it also is about bringing issues to the forefront, right? You need to talk about things. I really believe that if you don't name things, it doesn't get dealt with, really. So that's sort of a thing that I think is important. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Allison would be great at vice chair. I think I would be great at vice chair as well, but I like her answers to this. But one of the things about supporting somebody in the chair position, it really lends to, is that your style? About being someone that is a supportive role and sees themselves as a leader in a supportive role. And I'd just like to speak a little bit about servant leadership, because it's a style I think I bring to being a director, because I believe people should have a voice, and that it's my job to be a conduit for that voice, to have a voice, not me to be in the voice, but the person being able to say, how do I get out there and how do I do something? And the reason I bring this forward is because it isn't my job to stand up and tell Aaron when he's doing a bad job. It's all our job to stand up and to say, Aaron, you're out of line here, or anybody else is out of line. It's not one person's responsibility. I think it's the responsibility of the vice chair and the chair to have a good, honest conversation afterwards about what were the triggers, what could possibly the way forward if it reoccurs. But when it's occurring, I turn to everybody in this room to put their hand up and say, this is not acceptable. Thank you.
I think my question's sort of along the same lines as a chair or a vice chair as a key role is in support of the chair and of course the service to the board. But you've both been here long enough to see that we've had some good days and some not so good days. And as a vice chair, is there something in what you've seen and what you participated in around board dynamics that you'd like to see either introduced or perhaps discouraged?
So UBCM, I sat in with the city of Squamish and listened to what they had to talk about some of the steps they took to ensure the etiquette and the code of conduct around their table occurred. And one of the learnings that came out of it is that do it when you have a functional board. Do it when the board is agreeing, because take the steps to put things in place to make this truly a meaningful place to have a discussion and a safe place to have a discussion. And one of the things they actually do now is you take an oath in front of a judge at the beginning of your term. And they say that that's a powerful statement that you're making. And I think there's other steps that they've also found makes it meaningful to all the board members to start it off on the right foot. So I guess I would look to learning from best practices of other jurisdictions and bringing that to the table to incorporate it for our future terms. Thank you.
That's a good idea, Ben. I agree. Yeah, I don't think I have anything to add.
I will yield, Mr. Robbins, thank you.
I almost want to yield, but I want to ask Director Martman, where do you get that corn?
Director Wilson.
I yield.
I yield.
Nothing for me.
Nothing from me.
I'm feeling the pressure. Nothing from me.
Yeah, nothing from me either.
Thank you, everybody. I can go back around the table. We do have time if there is other that would like to ask another question. We do have time. Doesn't look like anybody will ask any questions, so we are going to proceed with the actual voting. I'll have staff distribute the ballots to you. Use your folders if you'd like as a little bit of a privacy screen, and then we will come and collect the ballots. And as before, we're going to take another 5-minute break after we receive the last ballot. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. By majority, I declare Director Nicholson as the Vice Chair of the CVRD Board and Hospital Board for the next 12 months. Before I ask Chair Stone to assume the chair, I just wanted to do a couple of housekeeping. I'll ask that the ballots for the chair and the vice chair be destroyed, please. All in favor? Carried, thank you. Some logistics. We're going to do a photo after we hear from Chair Stone. We're going to do the group photo in here, and so if you could all remain here in the chamber, and after which you can mingle among everybody and go into the other room if you want some more refreshments, and we will call upon you, each of you, for your individual pictures. It's great to see everybody is wearing poppies today. We'd ask that for the group picture and for your individual that you remove the poppy, with all due respect. So again, food and refreshments after the main photo. I'd like to provide a special thanks to staff and legislative services for putting together the inaugural meeting. Much appreciated. And with that, I'd invite Director Stone to the chair.
Can I bring a full-size chair?
You betcha.
Haven't sat here for a while. I just want to thank all my colleagues for the questions and the discussion and for really the work over the last couple of weeks to get to this point. I'm really, really, truly excited. And I know in the past I've been an optimistic person, maybe to a fault. I've pushed myself to become more pragmatic in my approach to this job and to life in general. But I can't help but be encouraged by the conversation that we had around this table today and we've had over the last couple of weeks. I really truly believe that this opportunity for sort of a fresh term, a fresh outlook. I looked at the elections across our region, both at this board and in our municipal councils, and I'm truly, really excited. I think we bring a diversity of perspective that is really important to serve all people of our region, whatever end of the political spectrum or whatever priorities they have as individuals, as families. And we have a lot of challenges ahead, but I wouldn't want to face these challenges with anyone else than the group around this table. And to all the alternate directors, thank you for stepping forward in service as well. And I believe fundamentally that this is a business about people. We serve people, we work together as human beings, and we have to respect that and embrace the diversity of ideas that we bring to the table, but always remain cordial and respectful to each other so we can truly be collaborative and find success by working together. I've seen two terms that felt very different to me. One that was collaborative and constructive, and that doesn't mean that sometimes at this table you won't lose a vote, your voice won't persuade your colleagues, but we always came back to the table the next day with that same dedication and friendship and camaraderie amongst each other, despite the fact that we vehemently disagreed on an issue that was really important to us the day before. And I truly felt that we lost that somewhere. And it's not any criticism of anybody that served. We were in a crisis, and sometimes a multitude of crises, COVID, fires, floods. Like I said, the locusts never came, thankfully. But having gone through all of that, I know that we have a talented staff. I know we have talented staffs at every municipality. We have collaborative and supportive people in our communities. And I think that we can show leadership done the right way and truly find success for our communities by working together. So I just raise my hands to all of you and say thank you so much.
Just a point of information. Would it be possible to introduce our alternates by name?
Sure, absolutely, yep. So why don't we go around the table from right to left, counterclockwise, and the directors can introduce their alternates. You can pick your choice first, Mr. Justice, Director Justice.
Thank you. North Cowichan has 3 alternates. I just wanted to explain that we're not, Mr. Chair.
You're out of order. All right, turn your microphone back on. I was being smart.
We have 3 alternates, and they'll be acting in order for all 4 of us. So the alternate, the first alternate, I believe, is Mr. Chris Eustache.
Should we clap for each one, or?
The Area I alternate is Joe Tatum.
The alternate for Area G is Rod Smith.
I almost forgot names, wow. So the second alternate would be Mike Callio for North Cowichan.
And the alternate for Area H, which is Diamond North Oyster, is Barry Marcotte.
My alternate director for Cowichan Lake South Scots Falls had to leave because he had to go buy in the store. Dave Darling.
Batting 7th and representing the town of Lake Cowichan, alternate director Vomaka.
For Area D, I'm still interviewing.
For Cowichan Station, Salem Glenora, it's Kate McNeil, and she's not here today.
Area C alternate is Don Harriet, and unfortunately he couldn't be here today either.
Area A, Mill Bay Malahat. Alternate is Blaze Salmon, who snuck out early.
Our third alternate at North Cowichan is Councillor Bruce Finlay.
The alternate for the city of Duncan is Tom Duncan.
The alternate for Shawnigan Lake Area B is Amber Champ. She did such a great job last term, so she's been reappointed.
Sure. Oh, I have three alternates. Councillor Istash, Councillor Callio, and Councillor Findlay.
They get double. So if nobody wants to call any more points of information or order,
Who's your alternate?
my alternate, Councillor Doug Patterson. He couldn't beat Duck Patterson, so 35 years of service as a councillor, and he'll be serving as my alternate for this year. And he did cut his hair and stop wearing the feather hat, so that was a condition. So I think if that's all of the business we have for today, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Director Morrison, seconded by Director Staples. All those in favor? None opposed. The motion